Yeah, thank you very much. Glad to be here too.
Guys, so do you read? I mean, do you read other books other than your own books?
I actually am a voracious reader. I only read mysteries and thrillers. So my authors are people like David Baldacci, Lee Child, Daniel Silva, Tom Clancy, Stephen Hunter. The typical book that I read is retired Navy SEAL, has a wife and daughter killed by terrorists. The president calls him up and says, the CIA and FBI are incompetent. I'm creating a special presidential task force. Here's the presidential pardon in advance. You don't have to listen to any laws. I just want you to kill the bad guys. So this Navy SEAL gets unleashed against these terrorists, and he kills them all. And he falls in love with this, Mossad agent. And then the bad guys kidnap her. This is my typical...
Do you sleep at night?
That's literature. Yeah,
this will not put to sleep.
That's what I read at night. Yes.
Anything professional?
The only time I read nonfiction is when I'm writing a book to do competitive analysis and to figure out, what I should be inspired by. So when I wrote Ape, I read all the books about self-publishing to see what everybody else wrote. When I wrote Enchantment, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read Influence by Bob Cialdini. All the books about influencing people. And so the only time I read nonfiction is for research. Other than that, I never read books, nonfiction books, just for the pleasure. It's mostly because if I read a nonfiction book and it was so much better than mine, I would just be depressed. And if I read a nonfiction book and it sucked, it would waste my time. So there's no upside.
Right. So let's go back in life. So there are always people in our life who sort of influence us, right? And who make us think and maybe make certain decisions. So
who for me?
Yes. Who was it for you? One or two?
So in high school, I had an English teacher who was a great English teacher, very tough English teacher. He made us write things out, and then if we made mistakes, we had to write the sentence incorrectly as we had. We had to write the sentence correctly as we should have, and we had to cite the rule that we broke. And so that is a major pain in the ass. And so, and this is before word processing. This is back in the gold nib days, right? And so you quickly learn to write. He's dead now, but I think that, he's smiling up in heaven, because if let's just say that I don't think he thought that of all his students, I would be the one who wrote 12 books. Let's just say. So he was a huge influence. I had a huge influential football coach. And then Steve Jobs was a huge influence.
So what did he teach you? I mean, not besides
coach,
football.
I just loved football. And he taught me about hard work and gutting it out and, all those kind of values. And then Steve Jobs taught me about innovation and about leapfrogging and about, there's also some lessons I learned from Steve of what not to do. But Steve Jobs was a huge influence also.
So what was the most difficult decision in your life?
I haven't really had, you mean like between two women who to marry, you mean? Or
something like that.
I never had that choice. I quit Apple twice. So if you would change the question slightly and ask, what are the two stupidest things you did in life? I did 3 stupid things. One is I turned down the opportunity to interview for the CEO position of Yahoo. I would have been the first adult supervision at Yahoo. So this is back a long time ago. And to tell you the truth, what happened was my wife and I, we had one child, and she was in beta with our second child. And we were living in San Francisco, and Yahoo was down here. And so Michael Moritz calls me up from Sequoia and asks me if I want to interview for CEO position of Yahoo. And I said, Michael, I live in San Francisco. Probably takes an hour to get to, down to Stanford area. I don't want to drive 2 hours a day. And then I look at Yahoo's homepage, and what? It's like Jerry and David's favorite website. It's a directory. It's no what?
What year was that?
Yeah, there's no. The second year of Yahoo. There was no defensible model, no defensible technology. Proven management team. Oh, what? They worked at Stanford Bookstore over the summer. So I turned down that opportunity at Yahoo. And if I had taken the interview, I probably would have gotten the job. If I got the job, I would have gotten 10% of Yahoo. And then let's say I had a 4-year vesting, I would have stayed there, 2 years before they figured out I wasn't good enough for the job. so kind of the HP way, So I would have Fiorinaed or apothecared. So then 2 years into it, they would have had this emergency board meeting, and I say, guy, we need someone who can take Yahoo to the next level, someone who can deal with Steve Jobs and Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates and Rupert Murdoch and Barry Diller, all the heavyweights. So we're firing you. And honestly, what I would have done, I said, you may not have noticed, but I'm Japanese American. So as a Japanese American, I'm considered an oppressed minority in the eyes of the law. And so, I don't think you can fire me. It's called lawful termination. I have my friends here at this law firm, and tomorrow there'll be a wrongful termination lawsuit. And I'm like, as Japanese American, I have to tell you, this is not the last thing you white people have done to me. Let's just remember World War II. We were fighting. World War II, we're fighting the Japanese, the Italians, and the Germans, right? And so, have you ever heard of taking all the German Americans out of their home and sticking them in camps in deserts? No. How about the Italian Americans? No. How about the Japanese Americans? Yeah, all of us you stuck in the camps in Manzanar, right? It's okay, that's a data point. And then towards the end of the war, when you already knew you win, you dropped not one but 2 atomic bombs. This peace-loving nation that you are, you wipe us all out. So I'm seeing a trend. There's Hiroshima. There's all these internment camps, and now you're wrongfully terminating me. So these 3 points determine a plane. You turn on your TV tomorrow, and CNN will have live from the headquarters of Yahoo. There'll be 60 old Japanese ladies protesting. So I said, time out, guy, what would it take for you to go away quietly? And I said, why don't you just give me the next 2 years? I'm 2 years vested. Give me the next 2 years. You already budgeted. What's the problem? So they would have given it to me. So then I figure I would have been worth $2 billion. $2 billion, adds up. 2 billion here, 2 billion there. I probably wouldn't be here tonight. I sure as hell wouldn't have written 12 books. So that was one stupid decision. The second stupid decision is in 1987 I left Apple. If I had stayed from 1987 till today, oh my God. Then I left Apple again in 1997. So every 10 years I left Apple. If I had stayed either time and kind of sucked it up, I'd be carrying Phil Schiller's bags today, but I'd also be worth $500 million.
Probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I also wouldn't be here, but so far, we're seeing a trend. So like 2 billion, 500 million, 500, 3 billion in opportunity costs. Yeah,
what was the third one?
I could own the Sharks. So, what else do you want to know?
A lot of things. So, so stupid decisions we talked about. What about the most rewarding ones?
The most rewarding decision, going to work for the Macintosh division, marrying my wife, and taking up hockey. Well, and of course my children, when I say wife, it's also part and parcel. We have 4 children. I'll give you one more decision. We have 4 children. 2 are biological, and 2 are adopted. And I will tell you that I think adoption is one of the most enchanting experiences in the world. Bar none. It's just a wonderful thing. Arguably, of course, we changed their lives from what they would be doing right now. But wow, they have brought such joy into our lives. And my kids are 17 and 19, they're the two biological, and 7 and 11. So there's a big gap. So it's kind of like I've had two families, but one wife. And, and so in a sense I've had two families, so with the first two you really don't know what the hell you're doing, right? I mean, seriously.
I just have only two, so
well, okay,
which
so
means I'm not there yet.
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing, trust me. And so you get to practice on the first two.
Biological ones.
Yeah, the biological ones. And then the second two, you really kind of know what you're doing, and it's much easier. And so I'm 58 years old. I have a 7-year-old kid, so I'm kind of, in a sense, I have grandchildren already. And so my plan is the 17-year-old will graduate, and the next day I die. That's the plan.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Stay with us. So tell us some really funny episode in your life.
Well, I mean, haven't I been funny so far?
In your life.
You're going to have to give me a better question than that.
Okay. So let's switch a little bit. So let's talk about some trends that happen in the Valley right now.
Okay.
So what are we going to face in the next year or two?
I have no idea.
What's your sense?
Well, I don't know. I think in the Valley we live in this very nice bubble, and it's never as
all the time or just right
I think
now?
all the time, and it's never quite as bad as the rest of the world, and oftentimes it's much better. Maybe we're just delusional, but it's great to be here. I mean, I don't work for Apple anymore, so it's not like I'm in that bubble, but. I love the social media stuff. I love the technology. I love Android. I think Android is so good.
So what happened? Talk about this.
So Apple fanboy that I am, I use Macintoshes to this day, but I don't use any iOS devices. I'm pure Android. I use a Samsung Galaxy Note 2. Mm-hmm. I'm about to get a Motorola phone, and I use a Nexus 7 as my tablet. I think Android is better. How many of you use Android in this room? And how many use iOS or iPhone? Yeah, well, you'll change. I just think Android's better. So, I love Android.
So how did you end up having your own fund?
Well, we started Garage Technology Ventures first as a investment bank, a boutique investment bank, and then when the dot-com bubble exploded, and nobody was writing checks anymore. So if you're an investment bank and you make a percentage of checks, and no checks are written, 7% of 0. So we decided to go from a broker to a principal and become an investor. So that was the change.
And so you look at, you wrote so many books about entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of have a sense, right, to what a person should be. So when these young guys come to your office, what are you looking for, and how quickly do you see, so what's important for you?
So first of all, in a rare moment of humility, let me tell you, I don't consider myself proven as a venture capitalist, because it's not like I funded a Microsoft or a Google or an Apple or a Yahoo or YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. So arguably, I'm not a good venture capitalist. So with that caveat, okay, I mean, you're listening to a guy who quit Apple twice and turned down Yahoo, okay? So just so you know, I like to invest in products. It's products. I think many venture capitalists say they like to invest in people. I think that is pure BS, because I think at the moment that you have to make the decision to invest in a person or a company, you have really no idea if that person is any good. And so I think the way it works for venture capital is you make 20 bets, one pays off, and you say, I knew that team was good, they had a good market, they had a good business model. And then you say to them, well, why'd your firm invest in Webvan? And then you say, well, my partners did that deal. So there's a theory that if you invest in good people, even if they have a lousy product, they'll fix the product or develop a better one. The question is, I'd like them to explain how you knew that was a good person.
That's
right, because if any of you
there's maybe something something strikes them. I don't know. You just see people, and
every entrepreneur that has ever pitched me has said, I am smart and hardworking and visionary and talented.
And yet, you see people and you think, no, something is not there. But you know what?
I'll tell you something. If you met some of the successful entrepreneurs, I mean, they're ADHD, ADD.
Exactly.
They got a lot of issues, all right? So, and then you look at all these slick, cornflower blue, pierced nose, driving BMW.
Is it a warning? That's already a red flag, right?
Yeah. So I think it's very hard to judge a person at the moment that you have to make a decision. On the other hand, I think it's much easier to judge a product that, it's either cool or not, right? And so there's a theory that you invest in people and they produce great products. There's another theory that you invest in great products and the people not so good, you fire their ass and hire better people. I think that's more the Sequoia model, and that's the model that I like. But again, with the caveat, I don't consider myself proven as a venture capitalist. My partner, Bill Reichert, is much better venture capitalist than I am.
So talking about people, out of the current CEOs of the public companies, or maybe just good, famous startups, who would you pick as a leader, as someone who would you consider as a great entrepreneur?
Oh man, there's nothing but downside in this. Does he have to be alive today? I'd say Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, Richard Branson. Those would be my heroes.
So when you are not writing a book, when we know what you're doing when you're writing all the time, how does your day look like?
My day looks like this. So I get up at approximately 7:20. I take my daughter to school. I go to Cafe Baroni and I eat breakfast and answer email and do Google+. I go to Baroni. I sit there till about 11:30. I play hockey from 11:30 to 1. I go back to Baroni, eat lunch, answer more email, more social media. Pick up my daughter at 3:30, take her home. Answer more email. Sometimes I help my kids with their homework. They go to sleep. I answer email, get on Google+. That's all I do. So that's my typical day if I'm here. Email is the core of my life. Email and Google+. The way I work with Google+, Google+ is me manually, only me. I have a virtual assistant who takes my Google+ posts and uses something called Buffer to put them on LinkedIn and Facebook. Twitter is purely contributed and ghostwritten. And so those are the four things, the 4 or 5 services that I use the most. Today was like just a typical kind of day, right? So I had MSNBC, I had this, I had Wait, Don't Tell Me, I had this hangout. But I mean, it's not every day I'm on TV, but I have webinars or interviews or podcasts all the time. So right now it's just I'm getting insomnia. I know I have 700 emails to answer right now, 700. And this is after filtering, so someone's filtered them. And these are 700 I have to answer.
So I appreciate you answered mine.
Yeah, you're special. And that just kills me because my parents brought me up with this concept of noblesse obligée, that you have an obligation to answer people when you become visible. And so it just kills me that 700 people are out there thinking, that guy's an asshole, he hasn't answered me. Because I'm not an asshole, but I haven't answered them. And so that just kills me. But I will tell you, just to, I know you're just like all breaking out in tears, right? You're hearing this story. I will tell you, I learned something. A few years ago, my inbox got corrupted. And I lost all the email that I had to write, to answer. Like hundreds of them. And I noticed that in the next 30 days, nobody, not one person said, why didn't you answer my email? Or, I sent you an email a month ago, you haven't answered, can I just ping you? Not one. So after that experience, I figured out, why am I answering email? They don't even care if I answer the email. And so now, this is kind of morbid, but I'm 58 years old. So when you're 58 years old, some of your friends and peers start dying, believe it or not. So I have this rule that whenever a friend or a peer of mine dies, I throw away my inbox in honor of them. And then I just pay more attention to my family, because for like 2 or 3 days I don't have anything to do, right? All my emails gone. And so if you ever write to me and I don't answer to you, and you hear that some of my friend died, you know what happened to your email, you got to write back. Okay, so it's kind of a strange practice, I admit, but I do that to honor them.
So let's take some questions. Let's take some questions from the audience. Any questions?
People are shocked. They're like, what the hell is he talking about? Yes.
How do you look so young, 58?
How do I look so
what's
young?
the secret?
Hockey.
Hockey.
Hockey. I love playing. I work out a lot. I love to work out. And I don't have any, I'm not like, what's that guy who like takes 400 pills a day? He just got hired by Google.
Ray Kurzweil?
Yeah, I'm not taking 400 vitamins a day, whatever. I'm on the high carb, high fat diet. I will tell you though, I have this thing called Meniere's disease, and Meniere's disease is an inner ear affliction that there's 3 symptoms: tinnitus, which is a ringing in this ear, hearing loss in this ear, and sporadic attacks of dizziness. And they really don't know what causes Meniere's. They think it could be too much alcohol, too much salt, too much stress, and so basically I just described my life, right? And so I've had to cut out. I never use salt. I never drink caffeine. I never drink. I'm sorry.
Does it help?
Well, that's the tricky part about Meniere's, is that you really don't know. They don't know the cause. Now, whenever I tell this story, now 5 of you are going to write to me and say, my cousin's uncle's brother started taking niacin and it cured his, and then somebody's going to tell me niacin, somebody's going to tell me like, eat scorpion testicles, and so that's why I don't discuss this disease, because so anyway, so how did I get on these questions? So health, right? So perhaps I am healthy because I don't have caffeine, I don't have salt, and I don't have alcohol. So on the other hand, I'm a dull person, but yes.
Hi, my name is Jerome. First of all, I want to thank you for coming here. I think a lot of what you say resonates with the crowd.
Thank you.
It's awesome. My question to you is, how do you stay relevant today? Is it that you are so psyched by your own life that your life is enough of an inspiration to every day, psych yourself again? Do you have other people that sort of influence you?
I'm not your psychiatrist. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I am intellectually curious kind of person. I do, I love to try new stuff. I might not, Robert Scoble just tries everything, right? So I kind of wait 4 weeks until after something. So, I'm just getting on Instagram. I can't tell you I'm at the cutting edge of some of that stuff. But once I fall in love with something like Google+, I go. When I go all the way. So I love Google+, I love hockey. I develop these obsessions. And I think partially it's because of social media. So with social media, using the NPR model that you heard, right? So every day I have to find 5 or 10 good things to post, to curate. And so I use my website Alltop because it curates all these topics. And so I spend a lot of time looking at stuff. So that's why I see all the viral videos, and I see all the cool pictures, and I see all this kind of stuff all the time, because as my role as a curator, I need to be on the cutting edge. Dirty little secret of mine is I very seldom read my public timeline in any service. So I never see what people post, because I view that my role is to find stuff before they find it, and they repost me. Not for me to be inspired, but they repost. I do look at the what's hot on Google+, but I feel that I have this constant pressure on me to always find cool stuff before anybody else does. so that I can be a great curator. So I think that keeps me current because I have to be current. Another thing that I do is that, at 58 years old, 2/3 of my life is over, right? So I only have a third left. And so, when you get to this age, you just don't give a shit about making people happy anymore. Seriously. I just don't give a shit sometimes. And so, when people want to take me on in social media and the trolls take me on, I just take them on. I don't give a shit. They think I'm supposed to be this kind and nice person and actualize their goals and kumbaya. I just rip them. And so when you take on trolls, I think it's intellectually stimulating. I'm all for gun control, so the NRA people attack me all the time, and I really went on record as supporting Obama, and so I got attacked on that all the time. I kind of enjoy it. I mean, it keeps you young. You have to defend your intellectual opinion all the time. It's a good thing. So. Don't write all this down because I'm not suggesting you live your life this way. Okay, this is what I do. Yes.
Thank you very much for being here. Can you tell the audience how you got a job at Apple? What was the early days like when you left?
Sure. So I got a job at Apple because my college roommate was working in the Macintosh division and he gave me a job. Really. On paper, I never took a computer class. I was not technical. I'm not one of these Asians who had 800 in the SATs, 4.2 GPA, graduated MIT in 3 years. Not at all. So it was honestly purely nepotism. I tell you, seriously, honestly, it was nepotism. And having said that, I must say that having gotten in through nepotism, I did make the most of it. So I think that's a valuable life lesson, that it doesn't matter how you get into someplace, it's what you do once you get in. Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much for fantastic evening. Why did you fall in love
Louder.
with Google? Why did you fall in love with Google Plus?
Okay, why did I fall in love with Google Plus? I fell in love with Google Plus because when I first saw Google Plus, or after I first saw it took me a while, I realized that it's beautifully, white. It's kind of like, it's the Apple Store of social media, lots of white space. I love the inline large 500 pixel wide pictures. Twitter has no pictures. I thought initially the comments and commenters on Google Plus were much more intelligent than what I was dealing with on Twitter, where everybody's just asking me to, follow them back. I enjoyed the fact of the built-in, the plus ones and the sharing and all that kind of stuff was built in. Vis-a-vis Facebook, there's some things about Facebook that I just cannot wrap my mind around, such as this thing called EdgeRank, where people have opted in to see your posts, but only 10 or 15% of them actually see it because Facebook is deciding who should see your post of the people who opted in to see your post. I have a very hard time wrapping my mind around that. And so with Google Plus, at least I know anybody who circled me can at least see the post. They might not be awake, they might not be at their computer, but they could see it. Whereas Facebook is much more difficult for everybody to see it. So that's why, and I just loved it. It was like a big moment in my life when I discovered Google Plus. I truly love Google Plus.
Is it possible to store information for a longer period of time? Seems like Facebook is getting rid of our information very fast. And I wonder if you can actually archive things on Google Plus.
Well, I would be fairly certain that Google knows how to search Google Plus. So, I think everything is there. So, yes.
My name is Gene. A little bit on a dry note. There is a common saying in the Valley that ideas are dime a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
But what matters is execution.
Yes.
You kind of touch base on it.
I agree with that. I think that ideas are easy, execution is hard. I used to believe that ideas are hard and execution is easy. Then I grew up. So, I can give you good ideas all day long. I mean, just build a computer operating system that's beautiful, flexible, and bug-free and fast. There, that's $1 billion idea. And I'll do it. I mean, that's the hard part. So, I really think implementation is everything.
Would you have anything to recommend in terms of execution for young entrepreneurs?
I think the key for a young entrepreneur today, because it's a very different world from 4 or 5 years ago. So 4 or 5 years ago, you sucked up to a venture capitalist to get a few $1,000,000 so that you could build your prototype, right? And you told your venture capitalist, I hired this rock star team. Happened to be drunk with you that weekend when you started the company. So you hired this rock star team, and these rock stars leave us alone for a year. We're going to create this product. And conservatively speaking, we should have 100 million members by the end of year 2, and we'll grow faster than Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, and Apple and Compaq put together, right? And so now, today, as you're an entrepreneur, look at all the things an entrepreneur needs. So you need people. Well, with virtual teams, it's a lot easier to recruit, I think. Or at least you're not bound by geography, okay? So now you need commercial real estate. But do you really need a space anymore? Because everybody's virtual, so you don't need space, okay? So now, do you need roomfuls of servers? No, because you use S3 or rack space and you have cloud in the sky, 1 terabyte for $1,000. So why buy a server, okay? So you don't need server. What do you do for marketing? You're not going to advertise. You're not going to buy marketing. You're going to use Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and Google Plus and word of mouth and blogging. So you're not going to buy marketing. And do you need tools? Well, Python is free, PHP is free, MySQL is free. So are you writing a check to Oracle for $1 million for an Oracle SQL server? I don't think so. So we just gone down the list of everything you need, and everything is either free or cheap. So guess what? You can start a company for a lot less money. Guess what that means? You don't need these asshole VCs anymore. Wow, what a concept, right? So, and then if you really need money, guess what? There's Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So now, instead of sucking up to VCs and diluting your equity and them sitting on your board and looking up from their BlackBerry every 10 minutes and telling you their great ideas, you actually have prepaid customers. What a concept. Wouldn't you rather raise $250,000 with prepaid customers than a bunch of pain in the asses who are on your board? This is an IQ test here, okay? So now there's sources of seed capital. You need less seed capital. So when you show up to a VC today, you have to show up with a prototype that is working. It's not anymore, give me $2 million and leave me alone for a year. You want to show up. Well, the best story to show up to a VC, I think, today is my buddy and I, we used Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and we raised $250,000. We stole computing time from Stanford. We have a virtual team. We now use rack space, and we pay them $5,000 a month, and we have 10 terabytes in the sky. We have all these interns from Cal and from Stanford and Santa Clara, so they're working dirt cheap just so they can say they work for a company and put that on their resume. And lo and behold, people are joining our service or our website at the rate of 5,000 people a day. And one day, as a joke, we put a little badge on our site that said, for business development or sales opportunities, click here. We just did it as a joke. And to our utter surprise, now 200 people a day are clicking on that, wanting to advertise, wanting to do partnerships. And now these 5,000 people are joining, and these 200 people a day are clicking on this little button. And so we need to scale. So we need capital to scale. I was having my mother and father look at all the pictures that are posted to make sure there's no porn. But now my mother and father, they're tired of looking at pictures every day. So now I need to hire people because my father's sick of looking at porn. So we need to hire people to look at the pictures and moderate the chat sessions and all do that. So we need money to scale. That's a story. That's the story you want to come in with. Okay? Yes?
What would your ideal social media platform look like?
It would be Google Plus with the ability to post externally through an API. If you work for Google, take that message back. Yes?
Yeah, hi guy. I'm Alex Vidosik, online, so thank you for answering my email. I'm
Hey?
so glad that
Well, nobody died that week,
Yeah, that's good. So, kind of, since we're talking about the books today, this ape thing is really good, but I personally have a lot of feelings about your Art of the Start.
Yes?
That was not only a very inspirational book, but kind of guidance.
Oh, thank you.
It's dangerous, because some people take it very literally. It just goes step by step of what you recommend to do.
Scary.
And you can imagine the consequences, right?
Yeah, success.
And as you know, probably noticed quite a few folks here are Russian Americans, which makes us also to qualify for the oppressed.
For the what?
Oppressed minority.
But we don't consider ourselves as.
I have a lot of Russian friends because of hockey. A lot of Russians play hockey. They never pass, but they play hockey.
Really, the question is.
I don't want to be racist.
Go on. Go on.
Can I just, since we're just among friends here, a lot of Russians here, what I don't understand is when, so this is like pickup, okay? Pickup hockey, intermediate level. And like, let's say the goalie is Russian, okay? So why is it that even at pickup hockey, the Shark scout isn't there, there's no scouts there, but the Russian players, they always come with an entourage. So it's the goalie, and his friend is taking picture, and his girlfriend. There's always an entourage. It's never just a guy shows up and plays hockey. Well, what is it that Russians always have an entourage with them? Can you just, can you explain that to me? Like when you guys go to...
It's very simple. They have a nice young woman. So they need to show what they're doing in their free time.
Oh, okay. I mean, so like if a Russian person goes to the dentist, do they take that guy with him? No. Again, I don't want to be racist, but I just noticed this. That,
We are special. So.
oh, okay. I understand. This year I went to Ekaterinburg or something.
Ekaterinburg.
Man, that is way out there. Oh wow! I had
You
no
went
idea.
to Moscow, right?
I've been to Moscow. Oh, we're gonna really get deep in Russia.
Okay.
You know that cannon with the big balls?
Right, of course.
Wow, that
Red
is.
Square.
Russians really have big balls. I have to tell you. and then that whole, you rang the bell once and it cracked. What is that about?
No, it fell actually.
Oh, it fell. Okay. But what I like most is like right outside of one part of Red Square. There's these little like shacks. And there's entrepreneurship there. Literally, I think they're selling bathroom access or something. There's these little wooden shacks. It's right across the Russian admiral on the horse, the statue. You know what I'm talking about? Like there's a Rolex store or something.
There was probably there was a no.
What is that about?
No, when you were there is this famous hotel called Moskva.
Yeah.
And so it was a construction of this hotel. That's why you had this Rolex.
Yeah.
And then.
But what are those women in those little wooden huts? I don't know. Can I just tell you one more thing? Disconcerting about traveling in Russia is the hotel keeps your passport.
Right.
What is that about? I have never. That is really disturbing. Why do they do that? Really?
I don't have an answer. I don't know. It's tradition, Soviet Union tradition.
I've been all over the world. Nowhere do they keep your passport but in Russia. It's really interesting.
Keep an eye on you.
By the way, about this big gun, it was unable to shoot this big balls. That was only show off.
It never shot
Not a show, no.
Never shoot.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it is a.
So what's your
It's
question?
a very interesting country.
The real question.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
We talked about Art of the Start.
Yeah.
Right? It is, I believe it was published in 2004.
I don't even know.
Like 7, 8 years ago.
Okay.
So today in 2013, the whole picture is so different. We have social media.
Yeah.
We got crowdfunding coming.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things you mentioned in the previous session. So if you would write this book or next edition of this book today,
Yeah.
what would you do differently?
I would definitely sort of go through this explanation I went before that. Venture capital it's kind of like cocaine. It's very addictive and it can kill you. So what you should do is try to prevent having to ever need it. So the goal is you use Kickstarter, Indiegogo, you raise money with pre-sales like that, you live on soy sauce and rice, or maybe in your case, beet soup, and you use open source, and you use cloud, and you use social media, and you do this, and you try to get to a run rate where you're kind of breaking even and you don't need to raise money. I mean, the art of the start would change. Having said that, a lot of the things in art of the start will still be the same, which is prototype fast, 10, 20, 30 rule for slides, hiring people that complement your own skills, don't hire all the same kind of people. Most of that book would stay the same. With hindsight, I made a crucial mistake with that book, because I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs have come up to me and said, Guy, I read Art of Start. It was my Bible for starting the company. So if I were really smart, the business model for that book would have been, the book was free, but you have to give me options. It would have been a much smarter business model. Yes?
There in the back.
Oh.
What is your most crazy goals in your life before that in your life?
What did he say?
We cannot hear anything. Okay, while he's coming. Right, you.
Okay.
Wait, okay, sorry.
What is your most crazy goals before ending the life?
The most crazy goals towards the end of your life.
Before the end of my life. It's not that I've done all these crazy things like climb to the top of, Mount Everest and all this kind of stuff. I'm very content with my life. I have 4 children. They're all healthy. They're doing well. I'm fairly healthy. I've written 12 books. I'm not, billionaire rich, but I never will be. But okay. Whatever. I hate to disappoint you. I don't have any sort of big audacious goals. I want to go to the moon, or I want to be the next Richard Branson. I just happy where I am, and I wish I could skate better. But when we take up hockey at 48, that's a little late. That's it. I would like to be on Fresh Air on NPR once in my life. Today, being on Wait, Don't Tell Me, that's huge. That was one of my big dreams. I love Wait, Don't Tell Me. So being on that was cross that off the bucket list. So I have a very short bucket list. Yes.
Here.
What's your view on Apple without Steve Jobs, and where do you think the company is headed?
Yeah, I truly love Apple. I love Macintosh. I don't agree with some of the stuff they did recently, although they don't care what I think. I hope they have it deep in their DNA to keep making great devices. The stuff I don't agree with is, I don't know why they obsoleted the cable for charging iPhones and iPads with their new one. I understand data rate transfer might be faster. I understand they might charge faster. But, literally tens of millions of docks and cables got obsoleted. Just for what? Why did they do that? And I have a MacBook Air. Why did you have to change the connector on the charger for that, too? So I don't understand some of these decisions. I don't know what's going to happen to Apple without Steve. There's sort of 2 models, which is it implodes because there's no more Steve, or Steve has created such DNA in that company that continues on. Disney still does well today. I still love Disneyland. Walt Disney's not alive. So I really don't know. But basically, my point of contact with Apple today is the Stanford Shopping Center and University Avenue stores. I love those stores. I think that the Apple employees in those stores are just remarkable evangelists for the company. I love them. But I'm just like any other schmo. I stand in line and I pay full retail. So.
Yeah. Nikita.
Hi, thank you very much. It was very inspiring and funny. So, Steve Blanc mentioned that Silicon Valley, actually compared Silicon Valley with ancient Greece and early 20th century France because of this booming creativity.
Yeah.
Right? But ancient Greece and France were booming in art rather than technology
yeah.
as Silicon Valley. And from your example, I understand that actually what we're trying to do is implement art into this technological land. And I envision hundreds of entrepreneurs giving up their startups starting to write books and...
I don't think that's going to happen.
But the question is how it feels to be an artist among engineers.
So for the rest of the audience, how does it feel to be an artist among the engineers?
Well, honestly, I don't consider myself an artist. You might find that strange. I haven't written 12 books, but I consider myself a business person who happens to write, as opposed to a writer. And I don't define myself as a writer because, in my mind, a writer uses a gold Mont Blanc pen and the words flow out through his or her wrists. I've never heard a writer describe it as vomiting. So, honestly, I don't consider myself an artist. I consider, if you ask me, what's the core of my mental image of myself, it is as a father. And as a father, one of the things I have to do is provide for my family. One of which is in college and 3 of which are in private school. And so, as a provider, I have to make money. And so, my writing, my speaking, my investing, my advising are all means to an end. And that end is to provide for my family.
But you said never write a book for money.
That's the wrong reason.
You see, this is why you should never do Q&A.
Okay, 3 more questions. 1.
Hey, Guy, I just had a quick question for you, please, with all due respect. I'm Brian. I sat next to a big Russian guy over at the Tide House Brewery recently. I said, what's the #1 sport in Russia? Hockey.
Hockey? Is it? Really?
I thought it would be soccer, but it's hockey, right?
Soccer? Soccer? Can we just riff on soccer for a while? I played soccer in high school, so I understand soccer. But what I don't understand about soccer is, what is with all the, theatrics about, oh, I'm injured, my leg is broken. They ride around for 30 seconds, and then 30 seconds later they're running full speed. And what? If you did that in hockey, if you missed a shot and then you pretended you got injured and you were writhing around on the ice, you would be laughed at. I mean, Canadians would not put up with that. And so what I don't understand about soccer, pardon my ignorance, is what is with all the theatrics? What is with all this drama queen stuff that's going on here? Anyway, so what was your question?
Do you mind answering this question? Are you related to the late Senator Inouye over in Hawaii?
No.
I saw some connection there.
No. My father was also a senator, not a U.S. senator, a state senator. So my father and he were friends, but no relation, other than being Japanese and from Hawaii.
Thank you for a great speech and about of start. You already mentioned that your influencers and some of entrepreneurs who inspired you. Which public individual, say martial artist, actor, or author, you haven't met, but you would like to have a conversation with over there?
Okay. So
can you repeat quickly?
The question is, which celebrity or public figure would I love to meet and whatever. So this is a great story. Perhaps I should end this way because it's going to be tough to top this.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Just to build up suspense.
Okay.
Here. Okay. So about 10 years ago, I had a Porsche 911. So I'm driving down El Camino, and I'm at the stop sign right where Charles Schwab and Jeffrey's Burgers is right over there. Okay, dead set in Menlo Park. I pull up to this stoplight, and I look over to my left, and there's this car with 4 or 5 teenage girls. Okay, and they're looking at me, obviously at me, and they're smiling at me, and they're giggling, and I'm sitting there thinking, Guy, you have arrived. You have arrived. You're like, Justin Bieber. And like teenage girls know who you are. It's because of your work at Apple. It's because of your writing and your speaking. It's because of all these great things you've done in technology in Silicon Valley. Even teenage girls know who you are. Okay? So I keep looking at them. This is a big moment in my life, right? So one girl goes, roll down your window. Clearly she doesn't own a Porsche because you press a button. You don't roll down the window. But anyway, so I put down my window. And she sticks her head out of the car and she says to me, "Are you Jackie Chan?" Yeah. So, you know.
This is a great story.
Now that I think about it, you know, getting back to this bucket list question. So, one of the things on my bucket list now is, you know, I would love to meet Jackie Chan, but even better, my fantasy, my goal in life is that someday Jackie Chan is driving his Rolls Royce. You know, in Macau or in Hong Kong or wherever he lives, and he pulls up to a stop sign, and he looks to the left, and there's 4 teenage girls are smiling at him, and he puts down his Rolls Royce window, and the girl says to him, "Are you Guy Kawasaki?"
This is a great ending. Thank you